working very hard to convince everyone she's Jessica.
All rise. This hearing is now in session. The Honorable Judge Russo presiding.
Please be seated. It's my understanding that Nora Buchanan is sitting in for Taya Delgado due to a family emergency involving your brother.
Yes, Your Honor, he was shot.
Sorry for your family's troubles, Mrs. Banks.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Let's get started. This is a hearing to determine the custody of one Ryder. What's the child's last name?
No, Your Honor, that's why we're
Your Honor,
here.
if I may.
Yes?
I'm Ryder's mother, Jessica Ford, and this is Ryder's daddy, Robert Ford. So Ryder's last name is Ford. He's our little bundle of joy, isn't he, Bobby?
I'm sorry, I don't understand. The infant has married parents that appear to get along. Why are the grandparents filing for custody?
Your Honor, may I? This young woman standing there, she's not my daughter.
Why are you doing this to me?
No more outbursts, Mrs. Ford. Please be seated. Mrs. Banks, why do you say Jessica Ford is not your daughter?
Thank you.
If I may, Your Honor, Jessica Buchanan suffers from dissociative identity disorder, D.I.D., also known as multiple personalities. She was healthy when she gave birth to Ryder, but subsequently fragmented into this woman known as Tess. Tess is unstable at best. There's histories in the file. Her doctor thinks she's a genuine danger to her child. His statements are in the file. And also there's documentation in there about previous violent incidents. This is why Ryder's grandparents are pursuing custody. Not in any way to deprive their daughter, but out of genuine concern. Because the sooner Tess receives psychiatric evaluation and treatment, the sooner Jessica can reemerge and the family can be united. That's all that Mrs. Banks and Mr. Buchanan want, to protect their grandchild while their own child receives appropriate care.
Mrs. Ford, I'd like to hear from you. Will you please take the stand?
I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Your Honor, just for the record, every word that comes out of this woman's mouth is a lie.
Objection, there is no evidence of that.
Counselors, please, I have the file. I've heard the complaint, and I will listen to the witness. Mrs. Ford, why are your parents insisting that you're someone they call Tess? And why would they petition this court for custody of your son if they didn't believe you were a threat to him?
To punish me.
For what?
For marrying the man I love. Mom, Dad, I'm so sorry that you're mad at me, but I love Bobby. You see, my parents wanted me to marry this former Navy SEAL. You might know him. He's a police officer, Brody Lovett. But I fell in love with Bobby last spring when we made Ryder.
Your Honor, I've got nothing against Robert Ford. In fact, I helped him get his job back at LU after he got fired for having sex with one of his students.
No, the only reason you did that was to get leverage over my mother.
More to the point, Your Honor, when Clint Buchanan found out that Robert Ford had had sex with his daughter, he had him beaten so badly that he was in the hospital for days. In fact, opposing counsel's husband opened an investigation into the matter. Isn't that right, Ms. Buchanan?
Whoa.
Your Honor, when Mr. Ford came to our office and filed a complaint, yes, we did open an investigation. But there wasn't enough evidence to substantiate the charge, so the matter was dropped. Now, can we get back to the case at hand and an observation that you made earlier that Mr. and Mrs. Ford appeared happily married? In point of fact, she just married him a few days ago after she abruptly left town, leaving her baby in the care of her parents without ever giving them any idea of where she was.
Yeah,
She just left her son.
Taya Delgado has submitted proof to that effect, that Jessica abandoned her child. What about it, Mrs. Ford?
My Aunt Nora's right. I did leave my baby boy with my parents, but it's only because I was in shock. I had just found out that my father had altered my baby's paternity test to make him look like he was Brody Lovett's. You can ask my Aunt Nora. You tried to prosecute him for that too, didn't you?
Miss Buchanan?
Well, actually, as it turns out, Vimal Patel has confessed to altering the paternity tests. He's now serving a lengthy sentence at Statesville Prison.
Yes, but isn't it also true that your office is currently investigating Clint Buchanan for hiring Eddie Ford to kidnap you and then killing him to cover his tracks?
Your Honor, no matter how many charges are lobbed at Jessica's father, the point is he has provided for her son a generous trust fund, which Tess and Mr. Ford are desperate to get their hands on. That's why they want custody of Ryder. It's not because they care about the welfare of the child. They want his money.
That's the truth. He will do anything to make a buck. Last year, he blackmailed a murderer who was a danger to everybody in town. All he could think of was a payoff. And a payoff is why he's after my grandson. This is all about the money.
That's not true. Your Honor, sorry, Ryder's my son. I love him. You can ask Tess. I've done everything possible I can for my
Mr. Ford, you just called your wife Tess. Are you saying that the woman before us isn't Jessica? That she's taken on another personality? Mr. Ford, are you saying your wife Jessica is really the woman called Tess?
Your Honor,
It's
I'm
all
sorry.
right, sweetheart. I'll take care of this. Your Honor, the truth is, after my father betrayed me and I found out at the altar that he lied, that Ryder was Bobby's and not Brody's son, I had a small relapse for 1 or 2 days. But I'm okay. Thanks to Bobby's love, I quickly reintegrated and I'm fine now. You have to understand, I should have brought this up before and I'm sorry that I didn't, but this is extremely difficult for my parents to talk about. Actually, they don't like talking about my D.I.D. at all because the truth is, it's my mother's fault. Her alter, Nikki Smith, left me alone with a pedophile and he molested me.
Jessica is very aware of how incredibly sorry I am about what happened to her when she was a little girl because of my illness. But Tess will use anything to get what she wants.
My mother's right, Your Honor. D.I.D. is a horrible disease. Actually, I'm scared for her. She could relapse at any moment.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
Your
Mrs.
Honor,
Banks?
is this hearing confidential?
Yes, of course.
Good, because I know my mother would not want this to get out. But the fact is, her marriage is in trouble.
That is absolutely not true!
I happen to know for a fact, but she's in denial. Her husband has actually gotten very, very close with his ex, Echo de Savoy. They thought they had a son together, Rex Balsam, because my father lied, and Rex is really his son, but he didn't want him, so he changed the paternity test to make it look like...
Your Honor.
This is the kind of terrible things that my father does. This is why I am so scared. What if he decides that he doesn't want Ryder anymore? Mom has an excuse. D.I.D. What's your excuse, Daddy?
All right, Your Honor, none of these allegations have been proven.
I am aware, Mrs. Buchanan. Mrs. Ford, so it's your testimony that you're not currently suffering from the effects of D.I.D.
Your Honor, with all due respect, we would like her to be seen by her doctor.
What about my mother? Does she have to see a doctor too?
Banks has not suffered from D.I.D. for
She
years
wants
now.
custody, Your Honor. It's only fair. What if she finds out that Charlie and Echo aren't just friends? She could snap, and I don't want my child left with Nikki Smith.
Well, luckily, it's not your call, Tess.
That will be all, Mrs. Ford. Mrs. Banks, could you please take the stand? Mrs. Banks, you're the only person here today that hasn't leveled any accusations, and I appreciate your composure. But as to your conviction that Mrs. Ford isn't your daughter and that she may harm the baby, do you really believe that?
Yes. Yes, I do. As much as it grieves me to say this, because God knows I love my daughter and I want her to be well. She is not well. She's clearly had a major relapse. And as a result of it, I am very afraid for her sanity and for the safety of her child. Unfortunately, we've had cruel experience with this. Jessica, a few years ago, was pregnant, and her husband at the time, Nash Brennan, he died tragically. She relapsed, which we didn't realize because she worked very hard to hide it, as she's doing now. And she went on the warpath against her twin sister, my other daughter.
I was in mourning.
No one is denying that, Tess. It's the fact that you took over. You tried to kill your sister, Natalie, and Jared. And then you let your baby die.
That's a lie.
No, it is not a lie. You refused prenatal care, and when you went into labor, you ran away. And your baby died. Your little girl, Chloe, my granddaughter, died because of you, Tess. I will not let that happen again.
I appreciate your concerns, Mrs. Banks. I'll review the file carefully. Castler, is Dr. Levin's number in the file?
Yes, it is. He's expecting your call.
Good. The court stands in recess until further notice.
All rise.
Call as soon as I hear from the judge.
Well, you blew it, kid. There's no way that judge is going to give my grandson to you, not after you called my daughter Tess.
Ryder's my son. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to keep you away from him.
Oh, I don't think you want to go another round, do you?
Excuse me, Mr. Ford. Excuse me. Can I talk to you for a minute? How do you think you're doing?
I was telling him he blew it. He called her Tess.
Well, let's just hope the judge sees it that way. After what you've done, I wouldn't blame him if he gives her a restraining order.
Whose side are you on?
Vicky's. And if she wins custody, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that you go to jail and stay far away from that little boy.
That was quite the performance, Mother.
Well, it was hardly a performance, and you know it. I was watching you, you know. I saw how hard you struggled to keep Jesse from coming back.
Well, I see how hard you're struggling to deny the truth about your marriage.
Oh, Tess, what is this nonsense about Charlie and Echo?
What makes you so sure it's nonsense?
If you have something to say about them, why don't you say it?
Why don't you ask your BFF, Dorian Lord?
Hey, where are you going?
Ouch!
Are you kidding me?
Well,
you're gonna ruin the case?
You've already ruined it by calling me Tess, so what difference does it make?